It's Antonio in Edison, New Jersey. And how are you, Antonio?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem. Thanks a lot. I appreciate being on the show. All right, so I'm here to prove the existence of God.
Oh, excellent. We always like to hear those.
But before I do that, I would like to, well, first of all, give a little background. I've always been raised a Catholic. My entire family's Catholic. My family's actually from South America, so you can guess how zealous people get there about Catholicism. But I was a Catholic until that last year, and last year what happened was I realized that Christianity couldn't solve many of the questions that I had, and I decided to become an agnostic right after, because even though Christianity did not provide an answer to some of these questions that I had, I could also not disprove God. I was never able to say that God did not exist, and by definition, being an atheist would mean that I would have to disprove God.
Actually, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No, I mean,
my question to you guys is, why do you consider yourselves atheists as opposed to agnostics?
Okay, well, first of all, you're operating from a very common misconception, so it's understandable that you have that. But the fact is that anybody who does not believe a God exists would be considered an atheist. There are other people who are atheists who deny that a God exists. Anyone who says, I reject the claim a God exists is true, would be an atheist. That doesn't mean that they then accept the claim there is no God. Okay? So it would be in terms of like if Russell came to me and told me a story, and it was very far-fetched, but I like Russell and I think he's a pretty honest person, and as far-fetched as it wasn't quite impossible, it was just hard to believe. And he's looking at my face and I look really incredulous, and he says, you believe me?
Giant purple dragon.
Well, no, something a little bit, but it's like, I'm not sure whether to believe him or not, and he says, will you believe me, don't you, Tracy? And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know. And I say to Russell, I just don't.
Okay, I won $1 million in the lottery, but then I didn't get to the office on time and I lost it.
The point is, I can't say that I believe him if I have doubts about what he's telling me, and I'm saying, I can't. I'm having trouble accepting this. But if he says to me, well, do you think I'm lying? Well, no. I mean, I'm not sure if what you're saying is true or not. I'm not making a judgment that you're lying. I'm not ready to say that you're lying, but I really can't say that what you're telling me I accept is true, because it's really hard for me to believe this. So here you have a situation where a person can say, honestly, I do not believe this story, but at the same time, they're not ready to commit to the idea that that the opposite of the story is true, that this isn't true.
And to answer your question about why we say we're atheists instead of agnostics, I actually say that I'm both. I'm an atheist in the sense that I don't believe in any gods. I'm also agnostic about the question of whether it could ever be proven that there are no gods. Because, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to describe God, and I certainly wouldn't claim that I can go through every possible meaning of God and conclusively dismiss all of them. But I don't have any particular reason to believe in a God, so I'm an atheist.
Yeah, and that's mainly what it comes down to, is the question of when somebody says, God exists, do you accept that claim? Do you accept that that is true? And if a person accepts that it's true, they're a theist. Anybody else is an atheist.
So, having sidetracked your question, go on.
Well, I guess I just misunderstood the dictionary or something. But
well, what is in the dictionary?
Well, the dictionary just says that an atheist is somebody who rejects the idea of God, like, completely, whereas an agnostic is open to the idea of there being a God, but cannot either reject or accept such an idea.
Right.
So
well, I mean, depending on what you mean by reject. I mean, I reject the notion of a God, but that doesn't mean that I conclusively...
Let me just say, like, for example, I said, what if I can't accept right now that Russell's story is true? I'm just not at the point where I can accept it. I need some evidence that what he's saying is true. if somebody says that rejection is not accepting, then I have rejected Russell's claim. That doesn't mean I'm calling him a liar. It means I'm having a hard time believing what he's telling me is true. I'm rejecting that it's true. I'm not accepting that it's a lie.
Okay, I understand.
I mean, some people get real confused by that, so it would be okay if you don't understand. But if you look at a broad range of definitions, don't just go to one book, but look at a lot of different dictionaries, theological dictionaries, philosophical dictionaries, and even just regular dictionaries, you're going to find some that say, person who doesn't believe God exists, and you're going to find some that say, person who says there is no God. You're going to find both those definitions.
Right, but I think that you'll find also that most people who are prominent advocates of atheism, I'm talking Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, would all be working with this sort of tentative atheism that we're talking about, where basically they pretty strongly disbelieve in a God, but even Richard Dawkins says, I don't put myself on the far end of the spectrum where I don't think there's any possibility of changing.
And what I normally say is that I cannot say there is no God with any more certainty than I can say there are no leprechauns. So in other words, I can't disprove that leprechauns exist. I can't. But I don't believe in them.
Okay, I finally understand the distinction.
All right.
Okay. For my proof, first of all, I came across this idea after reading up on some books on philosophy, including Immanuel Kant, which basically introduced me to the whole idea of utilizing a priori knowledge to find truths on top of truths.
Okay.
Basically, what my proof consists of is analyzing the fact that everything that we can say, everything that happens in this universe, where everything that happens in existence happens for a cause. We can say that a priori everything has a cause. That means that every cause there is has to have been preceded by another cause.
Well, there's
there's
a question because this is not applicable at the quantum level of matter.
Mm-hmm.
But not even getting into like obscure science that gets missing. But we got an actual physicist in the room who's giving
me the thumbs up for
but
that out.
The question I would ask is does this generalization apply to God?
Well, that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
What first led me to believe from this theory, from this aspect of existence, was that the universe was in fact infinite. Because if everything had a cause, then even if the Big Bang was true, which that's a whole other matter, but if the Big Bang was true, it must have been preceded by something else, and that something else must have been preceded by something else. And what that first led me to conclude was that the universe was in fact infinite without possessing a beginning. Now, it is also true that
that's
both
not
matter
necessarily the case, by the way.
Okay.
I don't know if this is what Russell means, but one of the notes I just wrote is that once you get to the point of Big Bang, my understanding, and I am no cosmologist, is that the laws of this universe no longer apply. And you are working off of cause and effect, which would be strictly an example of how this universe functions. Once you get prior to Big Bang, you can't assume cause and effect are the law.
Right. Now, bear in mind, there are a lot of competing theories about the origin of the universe. I mean, there are some concepts where the universe is really just one universe among many within, a metaverse, so to speak.
But even working with Big Bang.
Or there's one where, there's an oscillating universe where the Big Bang leads to a big crunch, and then that just oscillates out into another Big Bang. There are a lot of different notions of where the universe came from, and there's no conclusive proof about anything, but it's not for lack of plausible theories.
Okay. Well, just utilizing this train of thought, what it first led me to conclude was that the universe was infinite, in being that if everything must be preceded by a cause, then there would be no beginning. But analyzing the fact that both matter and time are intrinsic features of our universe, that means that they too must have possessed a cause. And that cause must have been both infinite. I mean, timeless, both timeless and omnipresent. And if you talk to any theist, that would tell you that those are features that would resemble a god.
Theists would tell you that, yeah, but they're not really known for being authorities on science.
No, agreed.
And they claim to be authorities on God, but I don't know one that's ever demonstrated to me they've examined a
right.
God.
I mean, the question that I always feel like asking theists who seem to know what their God is like is, where are you getting this stuff?
Yeah.
How did you actually study this?
Well, I'm not taking the side of the theists anyway. I'm just saying
Okay.
that to me, God is nothing but a cause. Beyond that, I can't say anything else.
Okay,
I can't
so
say whether
does
if
that
it's
cause
a being,
have to
whether
be...
it possesses intelligence. I only believe that it is a cause, and that cause would be interpreted by many as it being a god. Now,
So
beyond
so
that,
you're
I
not-
know
according to your...
I want to
I'm
hear what
sorry.
he's saying. Go on.
beyond that, I know nothing. I don't know whether this god still exists, whether this god died, whether this god had other gods which had gods. I can't say anything else about that.
But it sounds like, can I just confirm, is what you're saying then that to you, no matter what happened prior to Big Bang, whatever happened prior to Big Bang, you're labeling God?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that whatever existed or occurred prior to Big Bang is God to you, no matter what that is.
So, for example, if the example I brought up of a metaverse outside of the universe happens to be the correct explanation, you could just slap the label God
Onto
that
the metaverse.
and whatever it is, even if it's just like one particle that set off a chain reaction, you would
That's
call that
God.
particle God.
I label God as whatever gave rise to our universe.
Okay,
I think that's what we're saying. I mean,
Okay, whatever gave rise to our universe, that's God. Well,
so this God might not have any intelligence.
no, he
It might
said
not
that.
have any
Yeah,
will.
Exactly.
he said it might
I
not have
don't-
intelligence.
Right.
But I guess I don't see a difference between that and saying that, God is this pencil.
well, I think it just has to do with the fact that many people would interpret it as being God because of the features that it has.
Right, but you're talking about what you consider
Right,
God.
but you just said that you have no particular features that you attribute to it.
But I could also promise you that if you asked a lot of theists if a particle is what caused the universe, would you call that God? They'd say no.
Okay.
Okay.
But,
I mean, do you think that's fair?
The only thing is, a particle has matter and it has space. What I'm saying is, and also a pencil also has matter and it has space.
Yes, it does.
Yes. And what I'm saying is, the cause of the universe, the cause of our universe, must have been both timeless and omnipresent.
You don't
Well, wait a
know
minute.
that.
But wait a minute. What I'm saying is, you're simply saying, I'm going to make God a thing that preceded the universe, whatever it is. Whatever preceded the universe, that's what I'm going to call God, because I consider God something that existed before time, right?
Correct.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm generalizing here.
Correct.
If I say I consider God to be material like wood that has an eraser on it, then this pencil fits the definition of God. This is my God, then, right? All I have to do is say God is a piece of wood with a piece of lead inserted and a rubber eraser tip and a metal clasp, and this thing becomes God now, right?
I don't see what the parallel is.
I think
What I'm
I
saying
think
is
what
you're
saying-
simply putting the attributes together that you're going to call God, and then you're saying that I'm going to assign those attributes to whatever preceded the universe, and then that's going to be God.
I think
I'm
the
saying if I
question
give it
here
different
is,
attributes...
I mean, I think the question here is, is there some kind of standard for what words mean? I mean, if you're going to go with just saying that God, that I'm going to put the label God on this thing that I don't know anything about and might just have, might just be completely unlike anything anyone else considers a God, can you just change words around to mean whatever you want? I mean, Tracy's not saying that you are implying that God could be a pencil, but if you're going to be able to just use God to mean whatever you want...
Yeah, if someone
then-
can slap God
then
onto
couldn't
X,
she
why can't I
equally
slap
well
God
say
onto
God is a
Y?
pencil?
Okay. The thing is, I believe that my theory is being based on empirical truths
I wouldn't
that
call
apply
it a
to
theory.
our universe. And I don't believe that any other thing that can be called God is as I'm being faced with like a pencil or any of these other things that we talked about. I don't think those are based on supreme truths, universal truths
I don't
about
think
our
you're
universe.
basing it on supreme truth, though. I think you're just coming up with, I mean, you're just taking a question to which you don't know the answer.
And wait a
then
minute, but who says God has to be based on supreme truth? What supreme truth resides in Zeus?
The supreme truths about our universe.
But what I'm saying is Zeus was a god, correct? He was considered a god by many, correct?
Okay.
What's the supreme truth behind the guy who throws thunderbolts?
Right. I mean, now we can say, like, we think that Zeus was just the result of people making stuff up because they didn't know where thunderbolts came from.
And just like you're saying, I don't know what preceded the universe, I'll just call it God. Well, I mean, anybody can call anything God, I guess, and then say, I've proven God.
I don't think we need to know the answer to what preceded the universe because outside of time, there's no preceding. I'm just labeling.
So then you're saying nothing preceded the universe.
No, I'm saying something that is timeless preceded the universe, which is an awkward way of saying it because it does not precede. It simply
if nothing can precede it, then I don't see how something preceded it.
The universe, based on this method, the universe would have to be an infinite bubble that just has no beginning or end.
That doesn't necessarily make it infinite.
Without possessing a beginning.
Something that doesn't have a beginning or end isn't necessarily
Well, I'm still
infinite.
wondering how we're how is this a demonstration of God?
Well, because if everything must have a cause, then both matter and time must have also had a cause.
But what makes you say that cause is God?
Because by definition,
I am using the
whatever
term
it
God
is called God.
That's what it sounds like you
very,
said.
very lightly. God is simply the name that I'm attributing to this cause.
That's what I'm
To me,
saying.
God is just
Okay,
a cause.
so
I agree that's what you're doing.
You're saying that you've proved the existence of God when basically all you've done is proven that you are capable of calling any particular arbitrary thing a God. In which case, I agree. Whatever you want to call God, if that thing exists, then sure enough, God exists.
That's like pantheists.
By the words.
Yeah, pantheists
words.
say the universe is God, that it has all the attributes of God, that it's all power, all knowledge, all being, all existence. And so they say that's God. It has all the attributes of God. It's omnipotent. It's everywhere. It's everything. It's all knowledge. And so to them, the universe is God. And I look at that and it's like, well, if you want to call it God, that's fine. I call it the universe. And I don't consider it a demonstration of the existence of God for someone to just tell me it's
just
God.
That my only question is, what does it get you to have come up with this proof? I mean, what do you understand about the universe now that you didn't understand before you decided to put the label God on something? I mean, have you learned anything about the way the universe works? Have you gained any scientific insight? Have you learned anything about how to live?
I believe that every aspect of this universe follows that simple rule. And that's where I'm basing
So
my
again,
argument
what
on.
do you get from that? What do you gain by it?
What do I gain?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, you referred to it as a theory a couple of times. I wouldn't call it a theory because a theory has a particular meaning, and usually something only gets to the status of theory because it's demonstrated itself to be useful in making predictions about things that really happen. It's useful for revealing stuff about the world that you didn't know before you just decided to play these word games. To what purpose do you actually, does this proof actually provide any new information?
Well, I suppose that what I'm trying to prove here is that there is something that the existence just doesn't end with our universe. The universe must have been preceded by something else, and it can't. Existence is not confined to our universe, and our universe must have had a cause, which many would label as God because of these two traits that I talked about.
Some people label it the Big Bang.
No, that's not true because even if the Big Bang was true, it is still confined to our universe.
Okay, well...
Events prior to the Big Bang cannot be intelligently discussed because all the laws of matter and energy break down at that point. You cannot assume that cause and effect would have been in effect prior to this material universe. You also have to understand that at the quantum level, cause and effect do not apply. There are random events.